Let's talk about something that hits close to home for so many of us: respect, or rather, the lack of it. Whether it's in your relationships, at work, or even in casual encounters, nothing feels more dehumanizing than being treated as if you don't matter. And trust me, I know how much it can hurt. I've been in situations where I felt invisible, where people talked over me, dismissed me, or flat out disregarded my feelings. It's enough to make you question your worth. But let me tell you this: nobody has the right to make you feel small. Not one single person. Respect isn't something you beg for. It's something you embody. It's a kind of quiet power you carry within yourself, and when you fully step into that power, you don't have to demand respect. It naturally follows. Now, I won't sugarcoat this. It's not always easy. The world is full of people who test boundaries, people who thrive on belittling others to make themselves feel bigger. I've encountered them more times than I care to admit, and I'll be honest, in the past I didn't always handle it well. I would overreact, get defensive, or worse, stay silent when I should have stood up for myself. Every time I walked away feeling defeated. It wasn't until I started studying Stoicism and applying its principles to my life that I learned a better way. You see, you don't disarm disrespect by yelling, arguing, or trying to prove yourself to people who are determined not to see your worth. No, the real power lies in how you carry yourself, in your calmness, your composure, and your ability to rise above the noise. When you stop giving people the reaction they're looking for, you take away their control. That's when the game changes. I want you to think about this. You are not defined by how others treat you. You're defined by how you respond. Disrespect is like a storm. It's loud, chaotic, and designed to shake you. But storms don't last forever, and neither does the power of someone's disrespect. What does last is your strength, your dignity, and your ability to hold your ground. Here's what I've learned. The way to handle disrespect isn't about winning or getting the last word. It's about mastering yourself. It's about setting boundaries that protect your peace. It's about being so grounded in your own worth that no one's words or actions can make you feel less. I know this might sound easier said than done. And if you're feeling frustrated or even defeated right now, that's okay. You're human. But let me tell you something else. You're stronger than you think. And once you learn how to channel that strength, you'll find that dealing with disrespect becomes less about them and more about you taking control of your life. Let's work on that together. You've got this. Let me share something deeply personal that changed the way I see conflicts and power dynamics. There was a time in my life when I thought standing up for myself meant being loud, proving my point, or matching the intensity of someone who disrespected me. But let me tell you, it left me drained every single time. It felt like a never-ending cycle of giving away my peace to people who didn't deserve it. That's when I discovered a different way, a way that gave me back my energy and let me take control of my life without a single word. Silence. Silence isn't what most people think it is. It's not weakness or retreat. It's not avoiding conflict. Silence is presence. It's strength. It's the ability to say so much without speaking at all. And the most powerful part, it disarms the person trying to provoke you, leaving them unsure of their own footing. I've seen it work in my own life, over and over again. It's like flipping a switch, and suddenly you're in control, not them. Let me break this down for you, because silence isn't just about keeping quiet. It's about how you hold yourself in that silence. It's the way you maintain eye contact without flinching, the way your body language says, "I'm not rattled by you." It's the pause that forces someone else to face the weight of their own words. And it's the calm energy you exude that says, "You don't have power over me." There's something almost magnetic about silence when used strategically, When someone tries to push your buttons, they're expecting a reaction. That's their game. They poke, prod and push, hoping to get under your skin. And when you respond emotionally, you're stepping right into their trap. But when you stay calm and silent, you take away their control. They're left standing there with their provocation hanging in the air, and it's their own words that start to feel heavy. I'll give you an example. Once, during a heated discussion at work, someone tried to discredit me in front of a group. My instinct was to fight back, to defend myself, to prove them wrong. But instead, I paused. I let them finish, and then I simply looked at them. I didn't interrupt. I didn't argue. I just stayed silent, meeting their gaze with calmness. The room grew uncomfortable, not for me, but for them. They started stumbling over their words, and eventually the energy shifted. My silence spoke louder than anything I could have said. It told everyone in that room, without a single word, that I wasn't going to play into their narrative. And from that moment on, the dynamic changed. They never tried it again. Silence works because it forces reflection. When someone's trying to provoke you, they expect you to defend or retaliate, and when that doesn't happen, they're left to face the emptiness of their own actions. It's almost like a mirror. You're holding up their words or behavior for them to see, and they don't always like what's staring back at them. That's not your problem, though. Your focus is staying grounded in your own strength. What I've learned is that silence isn't just about not speaking. It's about where you place your energy. When you're silent, you're not wasting your energy on unnecessary arguments or emotional outbursts. You're holding on to it, conserving it, and using it for what really matters, your peace of mind and self-respect. And let me tell you, that kind of restraint is powerful. It's a kind of power that doesn't need to announce itself. It's felt. But there's another layer to this. Silence also gives you time to think, to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively. When someone's throwing insults or being disrespectful, your silence creates a space for clarity. It allows you to ask yourself, is this worth my energy? What's the best way to handle this without compromising my integrity? That pause can save you from saying something you might regret or engaging in a battle that doesn't serve you. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. What if the silence makes me look passive or weak? Trust me, I had that same fear. But here's the thing. Silence doesn't mean you're letting someone walk all over you. It means you're choosing your battles. It means you're refusing to let someone else dictate your emotions. And when you do speak, your words carry more weight because they're not coming from a place of desperation or anger. They're coming from calm authority. There's a calmness in silence that people can't ignore. It's almost unnerving for the person trying to provoke you. They're expecting chaos, and when they're met with composure instead, it throws them off balance. It's like they don't know what to do next because their usual tactics aren't working. That's the beauty of silence. It shifts the power dynamic in your favor without you lifting a finger. Let me tell you one more thing about silence. It's contagious. When you stay composed and refuse to engage in negativity, it sets the tone for how others interact with you. People start to see you as someone who doesn't get rattled easily, someone who's in control of themselves, and that kind of energy commands respect. But this isn't just about handling disrespect from others. It's also about respecting yourself. When you stay silent in the face of provocation, you're telling yourself, I value my peace more than this argument. I choose me over this chaos. And that's a message worth sending, not just to others, but to yourself. Silence isn't the absence of power, it's the presence of self-mastery. It's a statement that says, I won't be pulled into your storm because I've built my own calm. And once you embrace that, you'll find that the people who once tried to provoke you will start thinking twice. Not because you shouted louder or fought harder, but because you showed them that their disrespect doesn't define you. Only you have that power. Let me take this a step further. Silence, as powerful as it is, works best when paired with something even more impactful, the way you live your life. Silence can disarm a person momentarily, but your actions, those speak volumes long after the moment has passed. Words can be twisted, ignored, or forgotten, but actions leave a mark. They reflect who you are at your core, and that's something no one can take away from you. The way you carry yourself, the way you treat others, the way you stay true to your values even when no one is watching. These are the things that demand respect without you ever having to say a word. This isn't about perfection, though. It's about consistency. People respect reliability and integrity because they're rare. In a world where so many are quick to talk but slow to act, living your virtues sets you apart. It shows you're grounded in something bigger than the need for approval or the chaos of the moment. I've learned that when you embody your values, really live them, you don't have to defend yourself to anyone. Your actions become your defense. There was a time in my life when I felt the need to explain myself constantly, to justify my choices, to try to convince people of my worth. And let me tell you, it was exhausting. No matter how much I said, there were always people who refused to see me for who I truly was. That's when I realized I was going about it the wrong way. Instead of trying to convince anyone with words, I started focusing on living the kind of life that aligned with my principles. I focused on being honest, dependable, and fair, not because I wanted recognition, but because that's who I wanted to be. And something incredible happened. The people who didn't respect me slowly faded into the background, while the ones who mattered started to notice. Not because I told them who I was, but because they saw it in my actions. Living your virtues isn't about being loud or flashy. It's about quiet consistency. It's about showing up every day as someone people can trust, someone whose word means something, someone who walks the talk. And let me tell you, that kind of reliability commands respect. People might not always agree with you, but they'll respect the fact that you stand for something. When you focus on embodying your values, you also find an incredible sense of peace. You stop feeling the need to prove yourself because you know your actions speak louder than any defense you could give. It's like building a foundation so solid that no amount of disrespect can shake it. You know who you are, and you know that your actions reflect that. This doesn't mean you'll never face criticism or disrespect. There will always be people who don't see your worth, who misunderstand you, or who try to tear you down. But when you're grounded in your values, their words lose their power. I've experienced this firsthand. There were moments when people doubted my abilities or questioned my intentions. Instead of arguing, I let my actions do the talking. I stayed consistent, worked hard, and treated people with respect, even when it wasn't returned. Over time, those same people had no choice but to acknowledge what I stood for. Integrity is powerful because it's rare. It's easy to talk about doing the right thing, but it's much harder to live it, especially when no one's looking. But that's when it matters most. The way you treat people who can do nothing for you, the way you handle challenges when there's no reward, the way you stay true to your word even when it's inconvenient, that's where respect is built. And the best part is, you don't have to announce it. People will notice, even if it takes time. One of the greatest lessons I've learned is that respect isn't something you demand, it's something you earn. And the way you earn it is by showing up consistently as the best version of yourself. It doesn't mean being perfect. It means being genuine, being dependable, and being willing to own up to your mistakes. People respect those who are honest, not just with others, but with themselves. Living your virtues also helps you stay grounded when things get tough. When you face disrespect or challenges, your actions become a reminder of who you are. They keep you anchored. I can't tell you how many times I've faced situations where I felt frustrated or tempted to react emotionally. But when I focused on living my values instead, it gave me a sense of clarity and strength. It reminded me that my worth isn't determined by someone else's opinion. It's defined by the way I live my life. Another thing I've noticed is that when you live your virtues, you inspire others to do the same. People are drawn to authenticity and integrity because it's so rare. They see you standing firm in your principles, and it challenges them to reflect on their own. That's how you create a ripple effect. By embodying the values you believe in, you not only earn respect, but you also encourage others to rise to that same standard. It's also important to remember that living your virtues doesn't mean you won't make mistakes. You will. I certainly have. But it's not about never falling short. It's about how you handle those moments. Do you take responsibility? Do you learn from them? Do you make things right? That's what separates those who talk from those who truly walk the path. People respect honesty, even in failure. They respect someone who's willing to own up to their mistakes and grow from them. The beauty of living your virtues is that it simplifies life in so many ways. You don't have to worry about keeping up appearances or saying the right thing to please everyone. When your actions align with your values, there's no disconnect. You're not putting on a show. You're living authentically. And that kind of authenticity is unshakable. So if you ever find yourself in a situation where someone disrespects you or doubts you, don't waste your energy trying to convince them with words. Let your actions speak for you. Stay consistent, stay grounded, and let your virtues shine through in everything you do. Over time, the people who matter will see it, and the ones who don't, they won't matter. Let me tell you something that took me years to understand. Saying no is one of the most powerful ways to protect your peace and demand respect. For so long, I thought saying yes to everything would make people like me more. I believed that being accommodating and agreeable would somehow earn their respect. But here's the truth. The more I said yes to things that didn't align with my values or drained my energy, the more I lost myself in the process. Worse, I realized people didn't respect me more. They took advantage of my willingness to always say yes. What I learned, and what I want to share with you now, is that saying no isn't about being harsh or confrontational. It's about valuing yourself enough to set clear boundaries. It's about standing up for what you need, what you want, and what you deserve. And here's the best part. You can do it with grace. Saying no doesn't have to mean burning bridges or creating tension. It can be an act of self-respect that invites mutual respect from others. The first step in mastering the art of saying no is recognizing that you have the right to set boundaries. It might sound simple, but for many of us, this is where the struggle begins. We're conditioned to prioritize others' needs over our own, to avoid conflict, or to fear being seen as selfish. I've been there. I've said yes to things that drained me, to commitments I didn't have time for, and to requests that made me uncomfortable, all because I didn't want to let anyone down. But every time I said yes when I wanted to say no, I let myself down, and that realization was a wake-up call. When you say no, you're not rejecting the person, you're honoring your limits. And limits aren't weaknesses. They're a form of clarity. They tell others how to treat you and what you're willing to accept. I've found that when you set boundaries with kindness and firmness, people often respect you more, not less. They see that you value yourself and your time, and that creates a sense of trust. People know where they stand with you, and that clarity is invaluable. It's important to remember that how you say no matters. Tone and delivery can make all the difference. You don't need to be defensive or overly apologetic. A simple, calm response is often the most effective. For instance, When someone asks you to take on something you don't have the capacity for, you can say, "I appreciate you thinking of me for this, but I won't be able to take it on right now." Notice how this acknowledges the request while firmly stating your boundary. It's respectful, but it leaves no room for negotiation. Another key aspect of saying no is being consistent. Once you've set a boundary, you need to uphold it. If you waver or backtrack, it sends a mixed message, and people may think they can push you into saying yes. Consistency shows that you mean what you say. I've had moments where I hesitated, where I felt the urge to give in just to keep the peace, but I realized that every time I did, I was undermining my own boundaries. It's not easy, but staying consistent reinforces your self-respect and teaches others to respect you too. Saying no also requires a mindset shift. It's about seeing it not as a rejection, but as an affirmation of your priorities. When you say no to something that doesn't serve you, you're saying yes to something that does. You're saying yes to your well-being, your time, and your values. That's not selfish. That's self-respect. And let me tell you, once you start framing it this way, saying no becomes much easier. There's also a lot of power in keeping your explanations brief. You don't owe anyone a detailed justification for your no. I used to feel like I had to give a long explanation every time I turned something down, but I've learned that a simple "I can't" or "I'm not available" is enough. Over-explaining can actually weaken your boundary and open the door for negotiation. Be clear, be concise, and stand firm. Another thing I've learned is that saying no gets easier with practice. The first few times might feel awkward or uncomfortable, especially if you're used to being a people pleaser. But each time you assert your boundaries, you build confidence. You start to see the benefits, not just in how others treat you, but in how you feel about yourself. There's a sense of empowerment that comes from knowing you have control over your own life. It's also worth mentioning that not everyone will take your no gracefully, and that's okay. Some people may try to guilt you or push back. This isn't a reflection of you, it's a reflection of their inability to respect boundaries. When this happens, stay calm and repeat your no if necessary. You don't have to engage in a debate or defend your decision. Remember, your no is enough. One of the most surprising things I've discovered is how liberating it feels to say no to things that don't align with your values or priorities. It creates space for the things that truly matter. You stop feeling stretched thin, and you start feeling more in control of your life. And here's the amazing part. People who truly respect you will understand. They'll value your honesty and your ability to set boundaries. Those who don't, well, they probably weren't respecting you to begin with. Saying no is about more than just protecting your time or energy. It's about living in alignment with your values. When you're clear about what's important to you, saying no becomes a natural extension of that clarity. It's not about shutting people out, it's about being intentional about what you let in. And that's where true respect begins, with you respecting yourself enough to say no when you need to. Let me leave you with this. Saying no is a skill, and like any skill, it takes practice. The more you do it, the more natural it feels, and the more you respect your own boundaries, the more others will too. So the next time you're faced with a situation where you feel the urge to say yes out of obligation or fear, pause. Ask yourself, does this align with my values? Does this serve me? If the answer is no, then honor that. Your peace, your time, and your energy are worth protecting. And saying no with grace is one of the most powerful ways to do that. Setting boundaries with grace is powerful, but it's only part of the equation. What happens when someone doesn't respect those boundaries, or when you're caught off guard by a sudden wave of disrespect? This is where emotional discipline becomes your greatest ally. Let me be real with you. There was a time in my life when I thought responding to someone's rudeness with equal energy was the best way to show strength. I thought if I reacted quickly and fiercely, I could shut them down. But you know what I learned? That's not strength. That's letting someone else control you. True strength lies in self-control. Emotional discipline is about mastering your reaction, staying calm under pressure, and choosing your response with intention. It's the kind of power that leaves others unsure of how to deal with you because they can't provoke you. And trust me, when you show that kind of control, it's like holding up an invisible shield, one that protects your peace and disarms their attempts to throw you off balance. The first step in developing emotional discipline is understanding that your emotions are your responsibility. It might sound harsh, but it's the truth. Nobody makes you angry or upset. Those feelings come from how you interpret what's happening. When I realized this, it was like a switch flipped in my mind. I stopped blaming others for my emotional reactions and started focusing on how I could manage them. This doesn't mean suppressing your emotions or pretending they don't exist. It means acknowledging them, but not letting them control your actions. When someone disrespects you, their goal is often to provoke a reaction. They want to see you lose your composure because it gives them power. But when you stay calm and measured, it throws them off entirely. I've been in situations where someone was intentionally trying to push my buttons, saying things designed to get under my skin. In the past, I would have snapped back or let their words ruin my day. But now, I pause, I take a breath, and I remind myself that their behavior says more about them than it does about me. Pausing is one of the simplest yet most effective tools for emotional discipline. When you feel that rush of anger or frustration bubbling up, stop. Don't react right away. Even a few seconds of stillness can make a huge difference. It gives you time to think, to choose a response that aligns with your values instead of reacting impulsively. I can't tell you how many times this has saved me from saying something I'd regret or escalating a situation unnecessarily. Another key to emotional discipline is focusing on what you can control. Stoicism teaches us that we don't have control over what others say or do, but we do have control over how we respond. This perspective has been a game changer for me. When I stopped trying to control external events and started focusing on my internal state, I felt an incredible sense of freedom. Disrespect lost its power because I realized it couldn't touch the part of me that I truly valued, my peace. Maintaining calm doesn't mean you let people walk all over you. It means you respond with intention rather than reacting out of anger or hurt. There's a difference between being passive and being composed. Composure is about standing your ground without losing your cool. For example, if someone interrupts you or speaks to you disrespectfully, you can calmly address it without raising your voice. Something as simple as, "I'd like to finish my point," or "I don't appreciate being spoken to that way," sends a clear message without feeding into their negativity. Emotional discipline also involves letting go of the need to win every interaction. I used to think that if someone disrespected me, I had to prove them wrong or assert my superiority in some way. But all that did was keep me locked in a cycle of conflict. Now, I see that real power comes from stepping away when necessary. Walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's knowing when to conserve your energy and focus on what truly matters. Breathing is another underrated yet powerful tool for emotional regulation. I've found that deep, intentional breaths can quickly ground me in tense situations. When your body is calm, your mind follows. The next time you feel your emotions rising, try this. Take a slow inhale through your nose for 4 counts, hold it for 4 counts, and exhale through your mouth for 6 counts. Repeat this a few times, and you'll notice a shift in your state of mind. It's a simple practice, but it works wonders in helping you stay composed. Self-awareness is at the heart of emotional discipline. You have to know your triggers, the things that set you off or make you feel disrespected. Once you're aware of them, you can prepare yourself to respond differently. For me, one of my biggest triggers used to be feeling dismissed or unheard. Knowing this, I've learned to ground myself when it happens instead of reacting emotionally. I remind myself that my worth isn't tied to someone else's opinion or behavior. Another powerful aspect of emotional discipline is reframing the situation. Instead of seeing disrespect as a personal attack, I started viewing it as an opportunity to practice patience and self-control. This shift in perspective has made all the difference. When you see challenges as chances to grow, they lose their sting. You're no longer a victim of the situation. You're in charge of how you navigate it. One of the most profound lessons I've learned is that emotional discipline doesn't just protect you from others, it strengthens your relationship with yourself. Every time you choose to respond calmly, instead of reacting impulsively, you build trust in your ability to handle difficult situations. That trust becomes a foundation for greater confidence and inner peace. I also want to emphasize that emotional discipline is a skill, not a fixed trait. Nobody is born with perfect control over their emotions. It's something you develop through practice. And it's okay to slip up sometimes. I've had moments where I reacted in ways I wasn't proud of, but those moments became lessons. Each time I reflected on what I could do differently next time, and I grew stronger because of it. The beauty of emotional discipline is that it creates a ripple effect. When you stay calm and composed, it influences those around you. People often mirror the energy you bring into a situation. By maintaining control, you set the tone for a more respectful and constructive interaction. And even if the other person doesn't change, you've still protected your peace. Ultimately, emotional discipline is about reclaiming your power. It's about refusing to let someone else's behavior dictate your emotions or actions. It's about showing up as the best version of yourself, no matter what challenges come your way. And when you master this, you become unshakable. People will notice your calm strength, and they'll think twice before trying to rattle you again. That's the kind of power that speaks for itself. Emotional discipline teaches us to maintain our composure, but what do we do with the sting of disrespect that lingers? How do we take those moments when someone tears us down or dismisses us and turn them into something meaningful? Let me tell you this: disrespect, as painful as it can be, doesn't have to break you. In fact, it can build you. The way I see it, every challenge, yes, even the ones that feel unfair or humiliating, carries within it the seed of growth. The question is, are we willing to do the work to transform it? For a long time, I thought disrespect was purely negative, something to endure or avoid. I saw it as a personal attack, a wound to my dignity, and sure, in the moment, it felt like that. But the more I reflected, the more I realized that those moments of adversity weren't just obstacles, they were teachers. They pushed me to confront parts of myself I hadn't fully understood. My patience, my confidence, my sense of self-worth. Disrespect forced me to grow, whether I wanted to or not. One of the first lessons I learned is that disrespect is a mirror. It reflects not only the insecurities or issues of the person delivering it, but also the areas within ourselves that need strengthening. For example, when someone undermined me in a meeting, my initial reaction was frustration and self-doubt. I started questioning if I was good enough or if I'd done something wrong. But when I stepped back and examined those feelings, I realized they weren't about the other person at all. They were about my need for external validation. That moment showed me where I needed to grow, to trust my own abilities instead of seeking approval from others. This mindset shift is at the core of Stoic philosophy. The Stoics believed that external events, even the most challenging ones, are neutral. It's our interpretation of them that gives them meaning. Disrespect, when viewed through this lens, isn't inherently bad. It's an opportunity. It's a chance to practice resilience, to test your emotional strength, and to reinforce your sense of self-worth. That doesn't mean it's easy, but it does mean it's valuable. Another way to transform disrespect is to see it as a test of your character. I've had moments where someone's words or actions felt like a direct attack on who I was, and let's be real, it's tempting to react, to fight fire with fire. But when I chose to hold my ground and respond with integrity, I discovered something powerful. Disrespect can't tarnish your character unless you let it. It's not about what someone says or does to you. It's about how you choose to respond. Each time I stayed true to my values in the face of disrespect, I felt stronger, more grounded, and more confident in who I was. Disrespect also teaches you about resilience. It's like a muscle that grows stronger the more you use it. At first, the sting of being dismissed or belittled might feel overwhelming, but over time, you start to see it differently. You realize that no matter what someone says, your worth isn't tied to their opinion. I've found that the more I faced disrespect with resilience, the less power it had over me. It's not that it stopped hurting entirely, but it stopped defining me. That's a freedom I wish I'd discovered sooner. One of the most surprising things I've learned is that disrespect can actually deepen your self-awareness. When you're disrespected, it forces you to confront uncomfortable questions. Why does this bother me so much? What does it say about what I value or fear? These aren't easy questions to ask, but they're important. For me, they revealed blind spots in my own self-perception, areas where I needed to grow. And as painful as those realizations were, they were also incredibly liberating. They gave me the tools to build a stronger, more self-assured version of myself. Disrespect also provides a chance to practice forgiveness, not for the sake of the other person, but for your own peace of mind. Carrying resentment or anger towards someone who disrespected you only weighs you down. I've been in situations where I held on to bitterness for far too long, replaying the hurtful words in my mind like a broken record. But when I made the choice to let go, not condone, but release, I felt a weight lift. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means freeing yourself from the emotional grip of someone else's actions. Another powerful way to turn disrespect into growth is to focus on what it can teach you about empathy. As hard as it is to admit, sometimes disrespect comes from a place of pain or insecurity in the other person. That doesn't excuse their behavior, but understanding it can help you respond with compassion rather than anger. I've found that when I approach situations with empathy, I not only protect my own peace, but also diffuse the tension. It's not about letting someone off the hook. It's about choosing not to let their negativity pull you down. Disrespect can also push you to set clearer boundaries. Sometimes it's a wake-up call that certain people or situations don't deserve your time and energy. I've had moments where someone's repeated disrespect forced me to reevaluate the relationship entirely, and while it's never easy to walk away, it's often necessary. Those experiences taught me the value of protecting my peace and surrounding myself with people who uplift rather than tear down. Transforming disrespect into growth requires a commitment to seeing every challenge as an opportunity for self-improvement. It's about shifting your mindset from "why is this happening to me?" to "what can I learn from this?" That doesn't mean you have to like or accept disrespect. It means you use it. You let it shape you into someone stronger, wiser, and more resilient. When you embrace this perspective, you start to see disrespect for what it really is, a momentary event that doesn't define you. It's not a reflection of your worth, but a reflection of the person delivering it. And when you take that understanding and use it to grow, You turn something negative into something profoundly empowering. That's the alchemy of adversity, and it's a skill that will serve you for the rest of your life. Let me leave you with this. Respect isn't something you chase, beg for, or demand. It's something you command through your actions, your composure, and the boundaries you set. Everything we've talked about, the power of silence, living your virtues, saying no with grace, emotional discipline, and transforming disrespect into growth, is about taking control of your own narrative. It's about showing up as the strongest, most grounded version of yourself, no matter what comes your way. I've seen firsthand how these principles can shift the way people treat you, and, more importantly, the way you feel about yourself. It's not easy. None of this is a quick fix. But when you practice these attitudes consistently, something incredible happens. You stop being affected by the noise around you, and you start creating your own calm, your own authority, your own unshakable respect. And that's a power nobody can take away from you. Now, I want to hear from you. What's one thing from today's lesson that resonated with you the most? Or maybe there's a situation in your life right now where you're struggling to earn respect. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and who knows, your story might inspire someone else who's reading. If this message connected with you and you want to continue exploring these life-changing ideas, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're building a community here, one grounded in wisdom, growth, and the pursuit of a life lived with purpose. Join us, and let's keep growing together. Until next time, stay strong, stay grounded, and most importantly, stay true to yourself. You've got this.